Right now, we are living through an absolute tectonic shift in technology. You can see it, you can definitely feel it, and most importantly, you can see the sheer volume of capital flooding into the generative AI supercycle. But here's the thing, and it's why we're digging into this explainer today. When you actually sit down and follow the money, the trail doesn't look like anything we've ever seen in the history of Silicon Valley. We are basically looking at the single biggest economic mystery in the modern tech landscape.
Just look at this number for a second. $350 billion. That is the amount of brand new tech revenue added in just the last couple of years, almost entirely driven by this massive AI boom. We're talking about heroic, astronomical growth here. But there's a huge catch. The way this money is flowing, it is completely 100% defying all historical precedents.
So we really need to dive into this because this is the fundamental question keeping every investor, founder, and hyperscaler up at night right now. Where exactly is the money in AI? We're seeing unprecedented investments, massive capital expenditures, and frankly, incredible user adoption. And yet the economic value just isn't showing up where we typically expect it to. To understand why this specific cycle is breaking all the rules, we kind of have to put on our detective hats. And our very first major clue means looking backward at how technology supercycles are actually supposed to behave.
Which brings us to part one, the trillion-dollar AI question. Think about the massive shifts we've lived through. You had the internet 25 years ago, mobile 20 years ago, cloud 10 years ago. Monumental changes, right? But it's absolutely crucial to remember that laying down the railroads of a new era, it always takes time. Think back to the cloud supercycle. AWS basically broke ground in 2004, but they didn't land their first really major customer, Netflix, until 2010. And Amazon itself didn't fully shift its own retail operations over until 2012. That is a full 8-year gap from the first shovel hitting the dirt to a complete ecosystem shift. Right now, with generative AI, we are just in the very early innings of that timeline.
And I gotta tell you, the railroads we're building today are staggeringly expensive. Hyperscalers are pouring billions into outfitting data centers in what is essentially a 5-layer CapEx cake. You've got energy, chips, power, interconnects, and memory. All of this heavy physical infrastructure has to be fully funded and built out just to give us a data center capable of training and serving these massive generative AI models. But the economic value being created by all this infrastructure, it's taking a shape we have literally never seen before.
Let's look at part two, the inverted economic triangle. Okay, so here is where things get really weird. The ecosystem has morphed into this inverted triangle. In the mobile or cloud eras, the value accrued really heavily and really quickly to the consumer applications sitting on top. But in AI, of that $350 billion in new revenue we talked about, roughly 75% went straight to the semiconductor layer. It's a shocking clustering of revenue. A single monopoly layer is just running the tables right now. And even wilder, if you look at the remaining 25% and isolate that tiny little slice representing the application layer, just 2 companies account for about 90% of it.
And nothing illustrates the severity of this upside-down ecosystem better than the profit margins. The most profitable part of the stack is the semiconductor layer by a massive landslide, operating at roughly 75% gross margins. Meanwhile, the application layer, which historically has always been the absolute most profitable part of software, is struggling. Depending on who you ask, AI application margins are sitting somewhere between 0 and 30%. So why is the application layer struggling so hard just to turn a profit? To find the motive behind this massive economic mismatch, we have to look at the underlying physics of artificial intelligence.
Section 3. The New Laws of Physics.
Software ate the world. We all know the famous Mark Andreessen quote. It brings back this incredibly nostalgic era of tech because, honestly, software ate the world due to a very specific, beautiful economic reality. I could write a piece of software, you could write a piece of software, and we could instantly distribute it to millions of people for basically nothing.
So the crucial takeaway here is the shift in marginal costs. Traditional software had near zero marginal costs. You built the code once, and serving the 100th user or the millionth user cost you next to nothing. That's what led to those incredible 80 to 90% gross margins we used to see. Generative AI fundamentally breaks this rule. The incremental user of an AI application is not marginally free. They are actually incredibly expensive. Every single time a user asks a question, you are burning highly expensive GPU compute just to run the inference. The basic physics of the problem are completely inverted. So who is stepping up to fight for control of this incredibly expensive ecosystem? Let's meet the suspects.
Part 4, the vertically integrated giants.
Right in the middle of our inverted triangle is the infrastructure and inference layer, and right now it is undeniably the most unstable, hyper-competitive battleground in all of technology. It is moving so fast, you have these brilliant, nimble startups going head-to-head with massive, entrenched hyperscalers. They are all locked in this fierce sideways and vertical battle over inference, vying for a slice of what is basically a $300 billion revenue pie.
And the stakes literally could not be higher, because past cycles always produce colossal winners. The internet gave us Google, a nearly $3 trillion giant that is vertically integrated all the way from your search query down to their custom servers. Mobile gave us Apple. Social gave us Meta. The great unanswered question of this current supercycle is, who is going to ultimately dominate the AI stack? Will it be one giant controlling everything from the custom silicon chips, the ASICs, all the way up to the consumer application? Which brings us to the thrilling resolution of our economic whodunit. How does that tiny, currently unprofitable application layer finally achieve equilibrium and actually start making real money?
Section 5. Unlocking the real money. To solve this, we have to talk about scale. Right now, consumer AI applications like ChatGPT are massive. They've actually just overtaken niche apps like Spotify or Twitter, hitting around 1 billion users, and they're charging fast toward that 1.5 billion social scale. But we need a reality check here. Active knowledge work, typing out prompts, iterating, solving complex problems, that is actual work. Because of that friction, it might never reach the 3 to 4 billion user scale of passive, mandatory apps like WhatsApp or Google Chrome. Simply put, not everyone on the internet actively queries technology that way. And that leads us straight to this glaring monetization mystery. Look at this breakdown, it's wild. Alphabet has about 4 billion users and monetizes them at roughly $100 a user per year. Meta gets about $70 out of its 3.5 billion users. But the leading AI provider, they have roughly 1 billion users, but they are only monetizing them at about $10 a user per year. When you factor in the massive capital expenditure required to buy GPUs and constantly run inference, a $10 a year subscription model simply cannot sustain the AI supercycle. The math just flat out doesn't work.
So what's the ultimate unlock here? How do we possibly bridge this massive gap between incredibly high inference costs and these relatively low subscription revenues? The answer is going to be a massive pivot. The major AI platforms will inevitably have to pivot to high-intent advertising.
And AI advertising is going to be incredibly powerful. Just think about it. When you are interacting with an AI chat, you are giving it deep, highly specific intent. You're explaining exactly what you want. Plus, you are likely logged in, which means attribution is flawless. Because the AI understands exactly what you are trying to do, or learn, or buy, these ads will be incredibly valuable to brands. That's going to allow AI platforms to command massive premium pricing.
Now, I know exactly what some of you are thinking. Absolutely no way. I do not want ads interrupting my personal AI chats. But history always repeats itself. Back in 2012, right before the Facebook IPO, people heavily doubted mobile ads. The prevailing argument was, sure, ads work on a desktop, but there is literally no space on a tiny phone screen. Well, shocker, the industry found this space, and it completely defined the mobile era. We are having the exact same debate right now with AI chat interfaces. Trust me, the industry will find this space, and it will be the great economic unlock of this entire supercycle. The AI supercycle is currently laying down the most expensive digital railroads in human history. And right now, the money is heavily skewed toward the silicon that powers it all. But the fundamental physics of the market demand rebalancing. The application layer will find its monetization engine, and this inverted triangle will eventually flip. So I'll leave you with this one thought to consider. When the generative AI ecosystem finally achieves equilibrium, where will your time, your focus, and your investments be? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the right questions.